What's up, everybody? I'm Tim.
And I'm Tori.
And this is the Stuck Together podcast.
Episode 4.
The fourth
Let's
episode.
Go.
First of all, we wanted to say huge thanks to everybody who's been tuning in so far.
Yeah, it's so
We've
exciting.
had a really good response, an excellent response to putting the podcast out and sharing it with people, and everybody seems to really like it. And we're having a blast. So we really appreciate everybody tuning in and listening and watching and all that good stuff.
Oh, yeah. I forgot what I was going to say right before you said that.
I interrupted you. I was like, I need to get on this.
No, that was a great thing to say. Oh, I think I was just going to say, we've got a gremlin on the gremlin cam.
We do have a gremlino.
Yep, little grem schmino. baby Anubis is laying on the ground. We got a new Oh. He heard me.
Yeah,
he's like, that's me.
Yep.
We made a new frame for the gremlin cam.
Oh yeah. Well,
Super
technology is
exciting.
Still hard.
Oh,
Our last episode was technology is hard, but so we could talk about the Denver Gem Show a little bit, but we've been working the Denver Gem Show. So the podcasts we've done so far were on days off. And so I think we had a little bit more energy. We were a bit more excited. We tried to record this podcast yesterday, but we've been working the Denver Gem Show, so we've been working at least a week straight right now.
We are on day, we started Tuesday, the 5th.
Mm-hmm.
We're on day 8.
Yeah.
Would that make sense? Day 7?
Day 7, I think tomorrow's day 8.
Day 8.
So it's a week.
No breaks.
It's also, it's not just going to work every day. It's also like really stressful dealing with everybody who comes in and just like high volume logistics of like shipping and stuff. If maybe we should tell everybody, for people who don't know, we work in the crystal, semi-precious stones, raw stones, carved stones, stuff like quartz, amethyst, like emerald. We have some emerald, lapis, like tons of different tumbled raw stones, towers, stuff that you like display and keep with you, of like very colorful stones from the earth. Most of them are natural. We have some that are treated.
Yeah.
But we've both worked in retail in this industry, and now we both are working wholesale. So we work at a wholesaler. Yeah.
We've both been there for over 2 years, and overall it's definitely my favorite job I've had, I think. And it's really interesting. Both of us were in the retail side of crystals and metaphysics for over a year each. And then we moved to wholesale, and it's really interesting seeing the other side of the industry. I think I like it more. I think I don't want to like talk badly about customers or anything necessarily. Not customers that we have right now. I just mean like in the retail side. Personally, for me, having the really kind of like vibey, like I'm a starseed, like from another realm, and I'm gonna read your energy field right now, like just coming into the shop and like being weird like that. That was a lot harder for me to deal with than like business owners that are like, I'm here to get my stuff, don't talk to me, like, whatever. That was really challenging for me personally. I know you might be more inclined to like be able to talk to those people. I don't know. We haven't really talked about that too much, but that I enjoy the wholesale more. It feels more like we're all here for the love of crystals, and that's that. We love crystals for different reasons, but we're all here, and yeah,
I think let's not sugarcoat it for people who like aren't super familiar. Like we're talking like tarot cards, incense, metaphysical stuff, different pantheons of gods.
We're both very knowledgeable about a lot of what people consider like pagan, metaphysical, holistic, that kind of stuff. We're also really into that side.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Well, if you walk into one of those shops, it smells really nice. They got incense. They got like little stones everywhere. Like somebody's probably doing some woo woo in the front, whatever. That's the type of stuff we're talking about. If you don't know, but yeah, working the retail and the wholesale is different. And like, I think, with any industry, you're gonna get people of the same brand across any industry. You're gonna get people who are like, I know what I'm talking about, and I'm going to tell you what's up. And you're like, sir, would you like to shop here?
I work here.
I know what's going on. And like, then you're going to get people who are just nice, who are curious about whatever you're doing or want to know more and want to like know what you know. And then, you're going to get, every type of customer is probably in every industry. But I will say in the metaphysical industry, there is a particular brand of person who, because you're dealing with like, the metaphysical and like mentalism and spirituality, like people, I think the weirdest thing was when I was in retail, I would deal with people who like were probably not insane, but just like they probably needed help. Like they probably like actually needed
100%
psychotherapy, something, but they were not okay. And they had like found this and were like, this explains everything. And it's like, no, your neighbor's not trying to kill you and you can't hear them when they're sleeping. You need help.
You're not an empath or a psychic. Something else is going on. And not to say that those things don't exist. But yeah, it's just there are a lot of people who use the spiritual world to kind of cope with issues.
Yeah.
Just like religions, just like anything, people use it to cope. It's just that with metaphysics, it feels like there's a lot of enabling behavior. When someone's like, I hear voices in my head, they're like, oh my God, you're clairaudient. Like, oh my God, like you can hear the thoughts of other people. And it's like, okay, like it's very enabling. Like I feel like, there is something to be said about spiritual psychosis. Like it happens all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's with Christianity, sometimes it's with spirituality. But a lot of times it's with spirituality. Like people take it too far for sure. And I know for me, like I was going to say that I've been like metaphysically inclined my whole life. I really like crystals and tarot and all of that. But I didn't really get into it a lot for a while. The main reason I got into the crystal industry was because I was going to an engineering school and I was minoring in geology. And then I left that school and I was like, I don't know what to do. And I saw that a rock shop was hiring and I was like, I know rocks. I thought it was going to be like, Colorado minerals and much more of a like specimen heavy shop.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it's a very, it wasn't named like angels. We hear a lot of like kind of fluffy business names a lot of the time. And so it wasn't one of those. And so I assumed, whoa.
We are recording, Big Ben.
Oh my goodness. What is that about? Hi. But so I started at this shop and turns out it was very, very metaphysical. And I really did get into it. I've never been like a huge skeptic. I was just more scientifically inclined. I love math. I love science. I love all of that. And so I think for me, since I've been on both sides, sometimes it's hard for me to kind of not judge some of it more harshly, like the spirituality stuff. It's like there's a lot of it that I like really love and believe in, and then there's a lot of stuff where I'm like, that is a load of it's tough for me, and I'm trying to get over that because like everyone can think what they want to think. And I think a toxic thing about the scientific community is that like cynicism of like everyone else is stupid and I'm right, like because I I'm a scientist. Like, science is fact.
Isn't that every community now? Everybody's just like, everybody else is stupid. Yeah. I'm right.
Yeah, I think, you know, yeah, it's not that, you know, I know the flaws of the scientific community too. I experienced a lot of that as well, where it's like anything that can't be scientifically proven is stupid and wrong. You know, it's just like, it's like, okay, well, no, because like, that's a whole other debate that if we want to get into, we can, but
not really.
Yeah, not right now. But yeah, so, but anyways, so metaphysics, I am a very metaphysical person. That sounds like such a weird thing to say, but very spiritual. We both read tarot for a bit, like, I guess you could say professionally. Yeah.
I'm a professional.
We're both crystal experts, crystal whisperers.
You are the most crystal whisperer person.
Yeah, I like.
That's
I'm
her
definitely
specialty.
Crystals are my specialty. I can identify almost any crystal you show me.
I think my specialty would be more ritual.
You're more ritual and like magic and like I'd say herbs. You're really knowledgeable about herbs.
Not as much as Colin. Colin knows way more about herbs.
Yeah,
he's a great herb person. I know a little bit of everything, but
ritual is the most for sure for you.
Probably.
Yeah, I think for me the crystals are very like. I love. It makes me feel really smart, like knowing all of them. To be perfectly honest, because I'm a really like. I loved math. I loved the straightforward, like there's an answer, you know?
Yeah.
And so with crystals, there's an answer. It's like, what is this? I'm like, I'll tell you. It's literally that. But yeah, it just kind of happened. I just started being in that environment of a crystal shop and being like, you know, thrown into the environment of you have to learn all of these stone types to work here. Like, you can't not.
Yeah.
I guess, and I should say, yeah, I said that the rock shop was really metaphysical. Okay.
So it turned out that it was really metaphysical, but
it changed my life.
It was also just rocks as well.
Yeah, it was very crystal heavy. They had tarot decks and some herbs and incense and stuff, but it was majority crystals. But they highlighted the metaphysical and like, you know, healing benefits of the crystals. Like each crystal had a card for it and all of that. And I was like, oh, okay. Like I was like, sure, I'm down to learn this too.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty knowledgeable in the benefits as well, but I'd say more so the identification of them.
Yeah. Tori's really good when sometimes it happens fairly frequently. People will bring in stuff and be like, what is this? And you're like, that's like granite, bro. You picked that up out of the parking lot. But sometimes people will have stuff that they don't know, and I've played the game plenty of times too, where it's like, well, it looks like this, the structure looks like this, so it could be maybe this or this, and it's probably this. But Tori is really great, you know, and especially being in the warehouse too. Oh, which one is this again? You know, and she just has to glance at it and she knows which one it is, and you know, she's really good at that. And I wanted to say too that probably the coolest thing about crystals, particularly for me, is that whether or not you think that they have metaphysical properties, like this crystal is going to help my stomach, like sure, maybe not, whatever, you know, but whether or not you think that, or that it's just a piece of material that came out of the ground for no reason, people all think they're beautiful. And we all appreciate crystals. We all buy diamonds. We buy other crystals for people. We put them on necklaces. You know, whether you're a Christian, a scientist, you still did that. Don't try and tell me you didn't buy a crystal for somebody at some point.
Oh, yeah.
These come from the earth. They're gorgeous. They, you know, naturally occurred, and they're here. And you are in awe of them. Like, people don't look at them and have to be convinced at how beautiful they are. People naturally are like, that is gorgeous. That's pretty. And it came out of the earth. And I think that there's just something that is so magical about the fact that we all appreciate them and think that there's something to them.
It's like a universal truth. You see a geode get cracked open, and no matter who you are, you're like, what the like, oh my God, are you kidding?
Yeah.
You know, like,
well, you could even see a bird. You could see a squirrel. You could see a piece of drywall somebody made. You could see whatever, but there's something about semi-precious stones, especially like faceted. Like
Everyone
if you get like a terminated black tourmaline from Madagascar with all the ridges in it, or you get a piece of aquamarine that's like 15 grams and is see-through and it's like looks like the ocean. Like there is a crystal out there, and then you'll probably see it and you'll be like, how, why, this is insane. This is so beautiful. Like, and that's my favorite thing, because you can't argue about that. You can't or debate, or like we can't get into the minor details of how reality works. Like, you think this is beautiful, we all do, and that is like just so fascinating to me. You know,
everyone can enjoy them. It's super cool. And regardless of the benefits, you know, we have the hookup for crystals, and so most of my gifts to people are crystals, and literally no matter who they are, they open it and they're like, are you kidding? Like, you know, no matter what kind of rock it is, like, people just love them, and of course we love them. Our house is filled with them, and I think we're both fascinated by there's so many layers to it. There's like the colors, the structures, just everything about them is so amazing. And just the abundance of them. Like, I think working in wholesale has made me realize just how abundant, like, for example, amethyst is. Like, just the amount of amethyst that there is in the world, and the amount of amethyst that we haven't mined yet, the amount that's been undiscovered, like, and that's for every crystal. That's not just amethyst, that's just an example, but like, to see that the earth created that, and that if we want to talk about it in like honestly in a scientific sense or a spiritual sense, it all kind of coincides that, like,
bro, hey, can you not?
Oh my goodness, Snoopy, what are you doing?
What are you doing? If you're gonna be in here, you gotta chill, bro.
He's getting rowdy.
Stop it.
But that, like, the creation, or like crystals growing in the ground, it doesn't really make sense. Like, not them growing in the ground. I mean, the earth producing them. It just feels like such a odd thing for the earth to do.
If you are looking at the world from the perspective of everything in nature is there because it's necessary and because it beat something else.
Yeah.
Like this animal's here because it was faster, smarter, and everything else didn't stand up to it. And it's like, okay, sure. You know, I think that's one half of the equation, but you can see that perspective fairly clearly in a lot of nature. Like, everything competes for the most part.
Yeah.
But if you look at crystals, like, why? Like, what are they doing to, like, and there's not a few. Like, there are tons of colored stones and gems in the earth all over the world that are beautiful, useful. They have like the properties of quartz, giving it a pulse, and you get an electric charge back. Like, we use them in watches, we use them in technology, we use quartz, and not only that, but quartz is a very predominant mineral in the mineral kingdom. I like to play this game. I made up this little game that's called Is It Really Just Quartz? Because there's like tons of minerals that if you get down to it, you're like, oh wait, this is just quartz with an inclusion.
Yep.
Oh wait, this is actually just quartz. It's another form of quartz. It just has another color. Like, oh wait, this is also just quartz.
Yep.
And like, it is interesting too, because that's what we make our computers out of, is silicon. And so like quartz is silicon dioxide. I don't know, it's not exactly the same, but like, there's something there that's like,
there definitely is.
You know, and why do we have all of these terminated geometric shapes? Like like garnet forms in a dodecahedral
like, what is
shape.
That about?
Like,
why?
And like a fully dodecahedral, and like quartz always forms with 6 faces, and they have whole entire categories of the types of shapes and the ratios the faces make and what kind of quartz that makes it. But they all have 6 faces. Like, there's so much geometry that is naturally produced in crystals and in the ground, and it's like, what was the point? Why did you can't tell me that nature, like, what is a good, explanation for why nature created them? They just seem, I'm sure somebody could come up with a very bland explanation of why we have them.
I mean,
but
sure, like chemically and
we just find them beautiful. It's meaningless, like whatever.
Yeah.
But
well, and I mean, I will say, even the like explanation of why they form that way is super cool. I have a like really old gemology book that's super cool, but basically it's just like the structure has certain weak points where it like grows the corners and everything. But regardless of that, what I was gonna say is also, not only are they like really geometric, really just beautiful, honestly kind of a waste of energy. Like, if we're being, again, just perfectly scientific, it's a waste of energy. Like, it's so inefficient. Crystals take like millions of years to form. Like, it doesn't make sense, and on top of all of that, all of those weird kind of things that don't make sense, they're underground. We don't even, like, it's so rare to come across like a quartz cluster popping out of the ground. Like, it's not common. Like, we had to start digging to find them. Like, what? Like, after all the other things that don't make sense, they're also like hidden from us. And hidden from, and not so much hidden from us because we are conscious beings that started mining for resources and growing crops and all of that. Like, but I mean, like, every other animal on this planet, like, it almost seems like they would never find them because they don't have a use for them. It's just so I think there's just too many weird things about crystals to think that they're just some like pointless thing that like just a chemical reaction that happens in the ground under the perfect conditions, like, for no other reason. Like, it's just the earth did that. It's so compelling to me, and I don't think I can't even come up with like a reasonable answer. It's so interesting thinking of all of the just weird, like, that it just doesn't make sense, and being someone who's so invested in them, and so I know about so many of them and where they grow and how they grow and all of that. It's just, I'm like, I feel like I'm in this whole other little like world with these crystals. Like, I don't know. It's just so, I'm also a little sleep deprived, everyone. I'm sorry. But when we both start talking about crystals, we just gush over them. Like, we both just love crystals so much. Yeah, we do. And that was how we got onto the conversation in the first place, was because we've been so busy with the show and we've been tired from the day we tried to film yesterday. And so now tonight we were going to do it. We got set up right after work, and then we ended up changing, if you're watching instead of listening, but you can actually watch now on Spotify too. I uploaded the video on Spotify, so maybe everybody's just going to be included now. But we got a border for the Gremlin cam. Last episode we had these cameras switched, but because of the frame rate and the smoothness of the video, we switched them back. And so we did all that. We're getting everything together. We finally, like, after 2 hours almost, we were like, okay, we're ready. And then we looked over at the Gremlin cam, and the Canon, the battery was going to die again, just like last episode, because we took so long to set up. We didn't even think about it. We were like, oh.
No, I thought about it. I thought right before we started filming, that's what I said.
Before we started filming, but before that.
Well, we didn't think about it while we were doing it, but right before we started actually filming the podcast, I was like, oh no, it's going to die again. And I cannot have another camera die mid-podcast. And I was like, anyways. Yeah. We got everything together. The Gremlins showed up. Freya and Anubis are on the Gremlin cam right now.
Gremlin cam.
They're enjoying themselves, and we are very excited to continue doing this. And I'm excited for this podcast. We got off to a good start already.
If you guys want us to talk more about crystals, we are more than happy to, or metaphysical stuff. I know that I always think that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't talk about that, or like, oh, like, I don't know if I should talk about tarot or whatever. And then like almost everyone I like talk to, that's like all they want to ask me about is like, what do these crystals mean? What crystals do I need for this? Can you give me a reading? Can you tell me what this angel number means? Can you tell me like all these different things? It's like, that's I feel like where a lot of my, like, I don't want to say value as a person, but a lot of my purpose as like a person comes from. So if you guys want more metaphysical stuff, or even just crystal stuff, it doesn't have to be like super whatever, or if we want to get in the depths of like ritual work, we can do that too, whatever we want to do. But we're going to talk about a lot of different stuff on here. It's just gonna be, I feel like am I rambling?
No.
No. Okay. But yeah, I wanted to say before we like wrap up on crystal stuff, I wanted to say that when you were talking about me being a crystal whisperer and being able to identify, all the stones, we were both talking about that. I thought of, I wanted to shout out my work bestie, Elise, who when she started, I started training her like exclusively, and I think that she is like a mini crystal whisperer now.
Yeah.
Like I'm so proud of like how much she can identify stuff now.
Yeah.
It's just like so cool. Like she knows everything. Like I think we were talking about like scolecite or something, or like the structure of something, and she was like, yeah, I was gonna say like the structure. I can't remember what she said, but I'm just like so happy, and I'm like, oh my god, like I have another me now.
Yeah.
I'm so happy.
Trained her right.
So yeah, it's super fun when, because I know how cool it was to get to the point where I could just name them off the top of my head and like identify a lot of them and all of that. I just like know how fun that is to like get to that point, and I'm so glad that I could help her
until you
with
get
that.
to my level, where that part of what we do is when we get we import, so our company imports from China, Madagascar, Brazil, and Morocco mainly, a different assortment of things that are like naturally mined or processed in those areas. And so we get cases in, obviously, because we're wholesale. And so then we have to process it. We have to put it in like the different separate cases and the ways that we're going to sell it to our customers. And so part of that is when we get certain stuff, we need to set aside a percentage of it that's high grade, because we get pieces that are just undeniably like, this is not the same.
Yeah.
And this needs to be separated and marked up because it's fantastic. And so, sometimes we'll get those in just lots with everything else. Sometimes
it like shouldn't be in the case with those things, basically. It's like so nice.
And so we'll get that stuff, but the girls always complain about me high grading, because I'll high grade like 4 pieces out of 200, and they'll be like, but what about this one? And I was like, picky. Man, I was like, what about this one? I was like, I mean, it's okay. And they're all like, these are high grade. And I'm like, I've seen better. Like,
he's so picky. And for me, like, I love that, especially me and Elise, but also Anna as well. Our manager, we all 3 of us girls are very like, all crystals are like, we like freak out over every single one. It's like, whereas you are more selective. Like I'll show you stuff, I'm like, look at this, and you'll be like, yeah, that's really cool. Whereas like I show it to Elise and she's like, oh, what? Like, it's and I think there's a place for both of them. I think you're really good at picking out like the actual like high quality, like this is a unique piece. Mm-hmm. Whereas I'm like, ooh, pretty, like let's high grade it, you know. And I think there's definitely like you pick out stuff that I wouldn't pick out, and I pick out stuff that you wouldn't pick out.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of the other thing too, is there's like a couple objective things about most crystals that are definitely better, that you would prefer more, but everybody's preference of what they like is different, and it's kind of like art. Once you see enough stuff, you like really get into the weirder stuff.
Yep.
Where you're like, this doesn't normally happen. This is a little different, or this is a fusion of these two, which is like very rare, or like whatever. Where normal people like don't know what they're looking at. But
that's where we're both kind of at, is like we like the funkier stuff.
Yeah, and I like, one of the things I really like too is when crystals are like the epitome of what this crystal's supposed to be. And like, you know, if it's a red jasper, it's like the smoothest, most red like consistency or whatever, you know, just as an example. Or like, you know, just anything that like really characterizes what it's supposed to be, like a consistently blue lapis with perfectly shiny pyrite flecks all throughout, you know, like something that just really has like a rich color and is like, you know, smoky quartz that's that perfect sort of like gray tint where it's like, you know, there's actual like smoke in here, and it's like, you know, and not to say I don't like other stuff, or I don't like combos, or I don't like anything else, but like that's one of my favorite things, is like this is like a perfect, this is like the perfect example of what this is supposed to be. But I also do like really funky stuff as well.
Well, I was gonna say what's interesting is in like spiritually, it's considered that clearer crystals, more like perfect, I guess, crystals are considered more masculine energy, and the cloudier, more imperfect crystals are considered more feminine energy. Like could we pull up just like what we're talking about, just if you could look up like clear quartz as an example. Let's see.
Let's look up a point. And then, so that's not, so we need to find a natural point. I'll put natural in, because people polish them to make them look like they're supposed to look like.
But these points can naturally terminate like this. And terminating is basically like coming to an end. That's what terminating means in crystals, like coming to a point, coming to a facet, you know, something like that. Like a lot of crystals can terminate naturally, like into a perfect point. Quartz is the main one. Oh my god, Sage is licking my feet and it's freaking me out.
She loves to do that, and it's so annoying.
You could look up like I was mainly visualizing like a clear quartz sphere, you know, like the cloudy versus the clear, to kind of like. Okay. So let's see. So
this is a nice one.
Yeah, so that actually, well,
this one's a little more consistent.
Yeah, so that one has a lot of clarity. Yeah, like you can literally get quartz that is like that clear. It would be crazy expensive, but you can find it. And so that's like more of the masculine energy, while the quartz, like that one with the rainbows right up there is like a perfect. So that's like very the masculine, and I'm not too versed in like the reasoning for that. I've just been told that many times, that like the clearer and more perfect the crystal, generally that's more masculine energy, and then the more imperfect, the more inclusions of other minerals and kind of like cracks and formations and, you know, just general imperfections means it's more feminine. And so I said that because it's interesting. You prefer like the more perfect stuff. I'd say if you had to choose between the two, you'd pick the more pure, like clarity, you know, stuff like that, whereas I would pick the weirder one, or the one with maybe a couple different inclusions in it or something. Like I'm not a huge fan of the super high quality stones for some reason. Like I like the ones that have a little bit more stuff to them, like if you go to that aquamarine right there, that's like,
which one?
That one, yeah, that you're on. Oh my god, Jesus. But you can kind of see that that is so perfect, and there's something about it that's like really off-putting to me. I'm not, which sounds crazy. I know most people want like the top end.
Come on, why aren't you a little more fucked up?
Like the perfect,
you're too good at your job
thing, and I don't want it. I don't want it. I don't know why. I love the cloudy, like weird, kind of gross looking gross. But yeah, like that's, I can appreciate it. We're showing aquamarine specimens for anyone who's just listening.
But you would probably like love a Dalmatian Jasper freeform.
Oh my god, I love Dalmatian Jasper so much.
Right.
Oh my god.
So we go from this insanely terminated aquamarine that formed perfectly, and this is what she wants, is just a little dotted stone. She likes this more.
Yes, I do. Oh my god, I love Dalmatian Jasper, guys.
And this is why everybody's allowed to like what they like.
Yes. Dalmatian Jasper is, if you're listening, it looks exactly like how you would expect. It has a bunch of black spots. And it is just the cutest little stone. I used to not like it. I used to think it was so boring. I was like, when I worked in retail, I was like, oh my god, this stuff is just like meh. It's just meh. And then over time, the more I've been around it, the more I'm like, I love it. I love it so much. It's so cute. It's just such a fun, and of course the metaphysical benefits are like, joy, happiness, that kind of stuff.
She loves Dalmatian Jasper. I always like to joke that it's fossilized dogs.
Oh yeah, he does.
That's why it's called Dalmatian Jasper. And so like sometimes I'll be like, I'll tell her, oh, we got a bit of that fossilized dog in the back. And she's like, what?
It throws me off every time. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I'm like, oh. Because we do have fossils as well. So when he says fossilized, I'm like expecting him to say like a legit product that we got in.
Yep.
But super cool. We would love to have the owner of the company we work for on the podcast someday.
Yeah, we want to.
We would love
him to come on an interview
to talk to him.
Yep.
He's a fascinating person. Yeah.
And also, we didn't even get to the point of that's where we met, is at this job.
Yeah.
We didn't. Yeah. We should tell that story real quick because our whole podcast is about us being together. So we might as well tell people the origin story one time.
The lore. Yeah. So, I guess, so you started working like 3 months before I did there.
Yeah.
We were hired pretty close together. And then I was hired 3 months after, and you were training me on a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think either of us experienced like at least identifiable like attraction, like initial attraction,
No.
Nothing like some people are like, I walked into class and I saw her and I knew, like, or like, I just, from the day I met you, I like, we had like a little like flirty thing going,
Uh-huh.
It was not that. We bumped heads a lot. We
argued.
We're two pretty strong personalities, and so it was a bit of a struggle at first.
Well, we were just coworkers, and we would talk about social stuff or whatever, and I have ideas because I have ideas, I guess. But I would say some, and she would be like, "Nuh-uh, that's like you're dumb," and I was like, "I can prove why I'm not." And we would just like debate each other, and we would talk, and it wasn't until you were about to leave work, you were gonna quit, that we actually hung out. Well, did we hang out that one time before when we went to the pub right next to? There's a brewery right next to our work, and so after work we went over there to grab a beer and talk and hang out, and we debated each other there too. We just kept getting into it. We debated
a lot of like gender stuff, a lot of just society and like just all of that. Like we talked a lot about I think stuff that not a lot of people are interested in talking about. And so I think that's why we talked to each other about it.
Yeah, or when they do, they don't know how to actually just talk about it and listen to each other.
They just like yell at each other.
They go in defense mode, or they're going to try and win you over to their side, but people aren't open-minded. They just feel this way, and they're going to either make fun of you, or they're going to talk down to you, or they're going to try and convince you why they're right. But we did debate, we did argue. I think that's like kind of the joke about it, is that at the beginning, we were enemies to lovers. But I think that was the big thing is we didn't necessarily agree, but we talked to each other and we would just talk it out.
Yeah, well, and I had I had feelings pretty early on, but I didn't know what they were. Like we were just friends and all of that, but it was like I really cared what you thought about me. And that's like not, I don't care in that way. I like wanted you to like me like so bad.
Yeah.
I was like, I care what he thinks. I want him to like me, like just as a person, you know, like I think about our conversations like afterwards for a long time. Like I'm perseverating over stuff. I started caring about like how I looked when I came to work and like, you know, all these different things. And again, it was just kind of like a subconscious thing. And there was the one night where I was about to leave work. I wasn't leaving because I wanted to. I was leaving because I thought I was moving to a different state. We went to the brewery again with our manager, and we're just kind of hanging out. And this, oh my God, the alcohol at this brewery is so goddamn strong.
It's a little too strong.
It is so strong. And so I had one seltzer, and I think that I maybe didn't eat too much that day, so I was feeling it. And I remember like Anna had to leave, our manager, and I like told Tim, I was like, I don't think, mind you, like we haven't hung out that much at this point, and I was like, I can't drive right now yet, can you just hang out with me? And you're like, yeah, sure, like let's go get some coffee or something, you know? And I ended up like I was man, we ended up getting in your car, and you had a tarot deck in there, and I was like, I was so out of it. I was trying to open the tarot deck. You
dropped them all over my car.
I did.
She was like, look at these. Oops.
And so we started leaving the brewery, and I didn't know where you lived or anything.
No.
And
I wasn't trying to share that information.
Right, with like your random coworker, you know. And so he lived in a old repurposed motel.
Yeah, on the Colfax in Denver. So like if you've been to Denver and you know Colfax, there's like tons of little like strips of, you know, strip malls, motels, little stuff, places to stay, little things here and there. So this was supposed to be an old motel that had been renovated into units, so you would just like live there and pay rent and live on Colfax.
Yep. Yeah, so I didn't know that. In my mind, in my tipsy mind, we were going to the kava bar, and I'm, as most women are, I'm wary of literally any man that even breathes in my direction. I'm like, scary, danger, like kidnap, like, you know, it's just, it's second nature when it's been just told to you so many times, like bad things can happen to you, no matter who it is, you know, like no matter what man you're with. And so all of a sudden he turns into this dead end that's a motel, but it doesn't really look like a motel. It's like very blank. It's a very blank area, but he turned in, and all of a sudden I like see the dead end, and I just very assertively go, where are we? Like, where are you taking me? Did I say that?
You said something like, where are we?
Where are we? I was like very concerned.
Like, where are we right now?
Yeah. I got very like, where are you? Where? And he was like, I live here. And I was like, oh.
Where are you? My house.
Yeah,
I'm picking up something real quick.
Yeah, I was like, I didn't know.
Am I allowed to do that?
Yeah.
You don't have to come inside. Because that was the thing, is she just said that, and I was like, I'm grabbing my bowl, dude. Like, I'm going to go inside real quick, and then we can go to the kava bar. But fair enough, after that, you were like, oh, okay, I'll just come inside too.
I know. You could have totally lied that you lived there, and I was just like, okay.
Yeah,
like,
no, I was like, I live here. I need to grab something. And then you ended up coming inside. I was like, okay, fair.
Yeah.
And then we didn't go to the kava bar.
No, we sat in your apartment and talked and just vibed. And it was super fun. Yeah, and we just ended up not going. I think I didn't want to go. I think I was like, it makes me anxious. So I didn't want to go or something. But yeah, it was super fun. And then we did end up going to the kava bar. Again, just friends, like nothing. We didn't even discuss having feelings for each other at all. No. Like at all. And so then.
And then there was the Halloween party was the next big. The really big thing. Yeah. Where you invited me to go to this Halloween party, and I don't even think I made like any attempt to dress up because I just don't.
You didn't.
I don't do that.
I told you should, and you didn't.
Yeah.
I dressed as a biker.
Just like partying. I don't like Halloween. So I don't dress up. Like dressing up in a costume, it's not for me. I don't know. I just don't like it. Who knows why? But anyway, I went just to go have fun, and we did. We had a blast. It was super fun, and that was one of the big things. And I do remember thinking that night, we had gone to the gas station before we stopped at the party. And at the gas station, I remember thinking, I was like, oh man, this would be like really cool if like we were together and doing this and not just like hanging out and doing this or whatever. But I was like, nah, it's whatever.
Yeah. You were very chill about it.
And then I made out with a random chick at the party.
You did. And yeah, it turns out her boyfriend owned the warehouse we were at, or the studio we were at.
Yeah, I don't know.
We were at a music studio.
Okay, for the record, she came on to me.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying
the whole thing.
I did not watch the whole thing.
You didn't like closely watch the whole thing.
You just told me. I didn't know where you went. You disappeared, and then you came back, and you were like, I made out with someone, and I was like, what?
I did it right in that front room where we were all sitting.
I didn't see you.
Maybe you weren't there.
I wasn't there.
Then you came to the front room, and then I was like, said what happened.
Yeah, you told me what happened and told me who it was, and then I was like, oh dang, like get it. You know, I had no like qualms with it really.
Which I only bring up because it's ironic because we both like we were like that much not in the frame of like trying to get together.
Yeah.
You know, and then like
I was with someone else too. So we were both kind of like just in a different state of mind.
Well, we both were respecting the fact that you were in a relationship. And so this whole time we were in a coworker situation of like, we're just hanging out. And we were literally the whole time.
Yeah, I should say this person was okay with it. And actually, who knows why, but they told me to invite Tim to the Halloween party. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't like, you know, because on the outside, if you're dating someone, why the hell are you inviting another guy to a Halloween party with you instead of your boyfriend?
Maybe he trusted me.
But he did. No, because he wasn't in town. And I was like, I really want to go to this. It was like my cousin's Halloween party. I was like, I would love to go, but it's in downtown Denver and it scares me and everything. And he was like, just invite Tim. And I was like, great idea.
Yeah.
It's a man. The man could come with me. And he likes to party and have fun. So it made sense at the time. So I wasn't, that just sounded bad for a second. Like, you know, from the outside, if someone told me that, I'd be like, why is he going with you? So that's what happened. But it was super fun.
Well, and we hung out a few times, and it was pretty much always like, we would hang out, we would like have a few drinks, we would talk because we love talking, and look, here we are. We're still talking to each other, and we're talking so much we decided to talk at other people too with this podcast, I guess. But we just loved each other's company, and then I took a trip, so then he broke it off with you.
Yep.
And which again, we totally respected those boundaries, because I always feel weird when somebody's in a relationship. Some people, I think everybody has a little different idea of it's like, it doesn't matter if you're, you know, whether or not you're married, like if you're not married, everything's fair, like if, you know, whatever, like, and if somebody's with somebody, I just respect that.
Well, and that's something that I like really appreciate about our relationship is that nothing transpired when either of us were in any other commitments or anything.
Yeah.
Because I know that I've been in those situations, but I also just know that those situations just, it feels like it kind of sours the entire relationship. It almost feels like bad karma for your relationship. Like it just, and especially if it's like, if you're willing to, you know, already move on to someone else when you're in a relationship, it's the cliche, it's the classic, like, not cliche, it's the classic thing of like, if he cheated with you, he'll cheat on you.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. And so that's one thing I like love about our relationship, and the fact that, yeah, you didn't try to make any like suggestions or advancements or anything, honestly, until we were both single and you told me basically, like, you like made it clear that you had feelings. I had literally no idea. I thought you didn't at all. Like, and not at all, but like, you know, I guess, which we can talk about as well. Yeah, because you were going on the trip.
Yeah, well, I went on, so she had gotten out of our other relationship, and then I had to fly to Nashville, and so I was, you know, looking for someone to take me to and from the airport. You know, what friend could I ask for? And so I was like, oh, well, Tori would be great.
And you asked like a while before the trip, and it just so happened that like the relationship ended pretty close to me having to take you to the airport and everything.
That's true. It was already planned.
Yeah, it was planned
already
way before.
Planned.
Yeah.
Like, and so anyway, I go on the trip, and then I come back, and then Victoria picks me up, and we catch up about my trip and what she's been going through now that she's newly single or whatever. And of course I was like, hey, you know, you want to get some food? We can go hang out. And so we just hang out the whole rest of the day. That's all we do. She just picks me up from the airport, and then we're basically been inseparable ever since.
Oh yeah.
But
oh, that's such a cute way to put it. That's so true.
She picked me up, and that's it.
Yeah, that was it. I was gonna say that from your perspective, like I just pulled up, you got in the car, like at the airport, and then we're driving home. You're hungry or whatever, and you're like, let's go get a bite.
Yeah.
For me, I told his parents recently, because I'm like realizing more and more. I'm sure some people out there can relate, where you're like, looking back, you're like, I liked them so much. Like, and I was just lying to myself, or like just not admitting it or whatever. Cause like the day that I knew I had to pick you up from the airport. Oh, hi, Scout. I did my makeup. I did my hair. I put on a really cute outfit. I like made sure that I was like super cute, you know, even though we had no plans to hang out after I picked him up.
Not really.
Like, literally, we didn't talk about it until you got in the car. And so, like, I had gotten ready, like, all this stuff. And, like, just to, honestly, maybe even just drop him off at home. Like, I didn't know what was going to happen. I figured we would hang out, and that's why I got ready. But, like, it totally could, like, you know, whatever. And so, I'm, like, getting ready. I'm, like, perseverating over how I look and, like, all this stuff. And then I pick him up, and when he's like, you want to go, like, get some food and hang out? I was like, I mean, whatever, like, sure,
I guess so.
Like, I guess that's fine, like, but I think inside I was very, very excited, and I think I was mainly just like, again, at the time, like, because I didn't really, I guess, feel it. I think I was more like, oh, he wants to hang out with me. Like, I was so in the mental space of, like, I just want him to like me, like, as a person.
Right.
That yeah. So we got dinner, or like lunchish dinner, whatever, hung out.
Yeah, we hung out just like we always would do, and just talked, and we're having fun. And
so much fun.
It hit me at some point during the day, basically, where I was just like, this is like what I want, like where we get along, like we just vibe. Like, out of all the things that you could like ask for in a partner in a relationship, we like are perfect for hanging out and living life. Like, that's what it felt like we would do, is we're vibing together right now. And so, you know, I was just like, man, I want to kiss you, and just like, this is great. And so I asked her if I could kiss her, and then she was like, I gotta think about that, and then made me wait for like a while, and then was like, okay, you can kiss me.
You asked. What did you ask?
That's not okay. What I asked specifically was, would it make it weird at work if I kissed you right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said.
That is, like, imagine not really knowing at all if someone liked you and then them just being so forward like that. I was like, I was like, well, and me with like my analysis paralysis, of course, the first thing I thought in my head, I was like, is it gonna make it weird at work? Like, I like
that's why she had to think so long.
Instead of like, because I think you were mainly asking that as like just almost like an icebreaker, like a rhetorical question, like not actually seriously, like, you know, it was more of like a way to kind of like be like, hey, I want to bring up this thing, you know, like, but for me, I took it so literally. I was like, will it? Oh God. Like, I don't know. I got to think about that. Not to mention I was newly single and I really wanted to make sure I wasn't just trying to like, you know, get attention basically. Like, because I think that we can fall into that trap a lot, you know, when we've been hurt, we can just like want the validation and things like that. And I've been there and, but with Tim, it did really feel like I was like, in that moment, it kind of clicked for me too, like that whole day, but especially once you confirmed it, I was like, oh yeah, like it almost kind of like, it was like this flood of like feelings. And I remember you like were sitting, like, I know that everyone knows the feeling of being close to someone for the first time, like them like touching you or like just like hugging you or being near you. I remember you like rested your head on my shoulder, and after like 6 months of working with you and just seeing you basically as my coworker, it was like so weird and like it was awesome, but it was like really weird. And so I think that, you know, I know everyone's felt that before, where like you're kind of like crossing this barrier with someone where you're like, oh my God, this is weird. Like I think it's weirder to just like kind of touch someone, it like almost in like a sweet, intimate way versus just like kissing someone or whatever. It's like there's something about just like the innocent touch that's like so much more intimate. And so and you were kind of very serious, kind of like closed off, a little, I guess, like cynical in a way. Like you kind of had an attitude and stuff, and so for you to just kind of like,
I don't now.
well, you still do, but like for you to like soften up and just like be like,
yeah,
I was like, who is this person? But it was super sweet, and obviously I said yes. Well, I said no, it wouldn't make it weird at work, and I said yes.
We kissed.
Long story short. And yeah, like Tim said, we've been literally inseparable ever since.
Well, and the reason why it made me think of that too is of telling our story, kind of like, first of all, this is why we're on the podcast. So, you know, people can look, they'll be like, watch episode 4. If you want to know how they got together, watch episode 4.
Yep.
And I think like the thing for me too was we tried to make things go slower than they were.
Yeah.
Like we were like, we shouldn't do this until this point, and it was like we had to hold ourselves back at every point, which, like, you know, is natural when you're really into somebody or whatever. But also, like, we were like, my apartment was like falling apart and I could barely live there anymore. And so it just made sense for me to move in. And we were like, this could make it or break it, and it made it. But you know, we knew when we were doing stuff, we were like, this is a little too fast, but we also like can't help it. And but I will say that the thing that got to me the most, that was awesome, was like, because we worked the same job together, how long did we spend every day together?
I started working in May.
So like December, it was April when I moved in last year. So if we say that, then to probably at least a year, solid year.
Oh, you mean not working together, just living together?
No, because what we would do is we would.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
We would wake up together. We would get ready together. We get in the car. We go to work together. We work the same job. We'd
8
get
hours
off
every day.
We'd go do stuff together or go home together, eat, and then go to sleep together. And we did that all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels like that wasn't real. It feels like that time doesn't exist. Like it was so natural.
It was extremely.
Literally every minute of every day.
Yeah. So, okay, now I know. I thought you were asking how long did we work every day together before we started dating. For some reason, I thought that. No, I know what you mean now. So, yeah, from April 2022 to essentially August or July of 2023, we worked every single day together, spent pretty much every weekend together. If we didn't spend time together, it was only a couple hours.
And it wasn't on purpose.
No.
Like, we literally enjoy each other's company that much that we literally just spent every single day together.
Yeah, and we should clarify that both of us are not those people. I get really tired of people in my space really fast. Like, even my best friends, I'm like, they would spend one night with me and I'd be like, I love you, but like, get out of my house. Like, I get overstimulated by people a lot. And I think I don't normally feel smothered or anything by people. I like my alone time. I like my space and being able to be myself. And I don't feel like I can be myself around a lot of people. And so I think that that's why it was so effortless with you, because it's like, I'm doing all the things I would do if I was alone because I feel so comfortable around him. That's the main reason I didn't like hanging out with people for long periods of time, was because I felt like I was kind of not like putting on a facade, but like basically, like having to act a certain way and, just all those different things. And I feel like with you, it just like wasn't that at all. And I know for you, you've had, you get you want your space too, just in a different way. I know that really early on, you said something about that. You were like, what was it? Were you talking about like living in your car and like, I think you were saying like I get like not sick of things really easily, but like, shoot, what was it? It was like the sweetest thing you could have said. I wrote it down.
You wrote what I said down?
Yes.
What did I say?
Okay, let me just clarify. And
Do you write all this stuff down that I say?
No.
You have a list of like things Tim said to me?
No.
Oh.
I have a list of things that people have said to me.
Oh.
I highly recommend, if anyone deals with horrible self-worth issues and self-esteem issues, if someone says something kind to you, write it down. And when you're feeling really bad, read it. Because it's really easy to feel like a piece of shit and like unlovable and all of that, and that's really dark. But I tend to feel really insecure in my relationships, and so writing things down, kind gestures and kind things that have been said to me, even if it's not romantic, like it could be my friends, my parents, whatever, I write it down and then I read it later. To just remember that someone actually did that for me, or someone actually did say that to me. Because I tend to, I give love out pretty freely, but I don't feel like I deserve it in return a lot of the time. Heavy. But I wrote, long story short, I wrote down what you said because it was that impactful to me. So I'm going to find it. You can talk about whatever you want.
Yeah, well, while she's looking that up, the other thing that happened when we got together was we would go places and like, I don't have a ring on, whatever, but it would happen over and over and over again where like the lady at the 7-Eleven would be like, is your wife ready to check out? Like, she would call Victoria my wife. Mm-hmm. And then like we dropped the dogs off at doggy daycare, and they were like, oh, hey, mom and dad, are here, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
But it, like, multiple people kept saying it. And, like, of course, it's easily explainable away. You know, that just happens when you see a couple. But none of my other partners I've ever had, people just automatically started assuming we were married or, like, would say stuff like that. It was just like it was like a synchronicity from the universe.
Yeah.
It was just like...
It was like, pay attention, basically.
Like, everybody's saying that we're, like, married already. And I'm like, what is going on? It was like... It made an impact on me. It felt really weird because, people, no one had ever casually at a gas station said, like, hey, your wife over there, like, to my girlfriend. Buy your wife
stuff? Like, you know, I think both of us, like, it was very clear from, like, really early on. Like, I think from what we just showed to each other and what we could provide for each other and how we felt about each other, it was very clear that it was, like meant to be, I would say. And we both kind of knew, like, oh, this is like the long haul, you know. But yeah, it's really hard, like, when he was saying it, when things are moving really fast, it's really hard to, like, feel the things that we were feeling, like, 3 months in. Like, we were like talking about, like, marriage, like, 3 months in, like, and not in the sense of, like, let's do it right now, but in the sense of, like, I want to marry you.
I think that's a really important thing too, is that we would talk about, like, our plans for our life and for the relationship, and, like, do you want to get married? Do you want to be a permanent thing and find, you know, someone to grow old with and, like, do the marriage thing with, you know, like, and that was really important to me, and is, like, you know, we always just talk to each other and they're like, I'm feeling like this, well, I'm not, or I am, and, like, where do we agree and where do we, like, disagree, and, like, what can we do about that? And we both talked about it and agreed that we want, you know, permanent, lifelong partners, and you know, we were both on the same page about all the important stuff, really.
I don't think I've ever, like, met someone where it felt like you were like speaking to, like, I guess, like, my soul, like, and its needs, you know, like, it's, for me, it was extremely rare finding any man, really, who genuinely was like, yeah, I want, like, long-term marriage and partnership. That's a hard thing to find, at least in the people that I was with. It's very abundant. Lots of men want that. I just
do they? Is that what modern people want anymore?
I don't know, but I just hadn't found any, or I had found them that they were like, I want to marry you, and I'd be like, okay, like, not right now, but, like, I get what you're saying, and then, like, 2 years in, they'd be like, actually, commitment scares me. And I'm like, actually, you should have fucking told me that before I put 2 years into this shit, you know, like. And I know people change and can change their minds and stuff, and I don't hold anything against them, but I just dealt with a lot of that kind of, like, inconsistency of, like, what people wanted. I was like, but I have always been very certain, like, that I wanted to get married. I wanted long-term partnership. I wanted loyalty. I wanted monogamy. I wanted, you know, all these different things with someone. And so to feel like I got to a point where I was just like, am I just, like, too decisive? Is it normal for people to be this, like, wishy-washy, basically, and, like, I need to be more flexible? You know, it, like, got to that point. And so I think there's a lot of things that you and I are flexible about, and, like, you know, we accommodate and compromise with each other. But, you know, the fact that you even just were like, I've been, like, looking for, like, my life partner, I was like, what? I was like, same. Oh my God. Like, no way. Like, it was just, and it was so cool. Let me see. I found it. I found what you said.
Oh man, here we go.
So
Anubis.
What are you doing, Mr. Graham?
Through my headphones, I can hear them fighting in the living room.
Yep. So, I have in here, he said he always wanted space. He moved out at 18, moved states, left relationships, etc. But with me, he doesn't care about being alone. He loses track of how long we've been together consecutively. And then I also have, he said we've spent over 6 months together with maybe 24 hours apart. And that's if, and that, wait.
And that's if that is a if.
And that if a minimal problem is the only problem, that's pretty good. Basically for like, if we're spending basically 24/7 together. And I think it was something little, like, I think you wanted me to do the dishes more often. And I think I felt really self-conscious about it or something. I was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, I hate when I feel like I've upset someone. Yeah. And so I think you were kind of reassuring me, like, if this is the only problem we're having, like, we're good.
Yeah. Well, and we're good like that for sure, because we do have very minimal problems and we're there for each other. Mm-hmm. But I also think that we are also really good at, if we have a problem, we are down to tell the other person. Mm-hmm. And be like with the dishes thing, you know, like, hey, like, I'm doing the dishes, you're not, like, can we do this together? You know, I didn't hold that in until it blew up. And then when I said it, you didn't blow up. We just figured out how to move on without completely reacting horribly to the other person. And we do that with just about everything. It's like, you know, well, I'm feeling like this. Well, I'm not. It's like, all right, well, what do we do? And
and, you know, it's not always an easy thing. I think, you know, even if we talk about stuff, it might not get resolved that night. Like, we might still be feeling kind of like not bad about it, but just kind of like, you know, we'll feel better in the morning or whatever. I will say something that you've really helped me with is that, like, problems don't need a resolution immediately. Like, it made me really uncomfortable that, like, you could just, like, move on from issues. And I was just like, how are you doing that? And I realized it was because I was in this space of, like, I have a lot of, like, fear of people leaving, like, a lot of abandonment stuff, that kind of thing. And, like, rejection mainly. And so because of you just reassuring me so much and, like, making me feel safe and comfortable and all of that, like, it made me realize, like, oh, in all of my relationships, including this one, I've been in the space of everything has to be good or else they will leave. Like, this little skirmish we had was the final straw, and they're, like, out of here. Like, I am past the point of redemption, basically. Like, I was living in that state of fear, like, for literally any conflict at all. I was like, this is the thing. Like, this is the thing that's gonna do it, and they're gonna bounce, you know. And I think just as we've been together, I've realized, like, you know, we're both in this, and at the end of the day, we both do want to make it work. Like, he wouldn't be here if he didn't want to be here. I think that was a big one for me. It's like, he wouldn't be here if he didn't want to be here, you know. And so I think you've helped me with that so much, of, like, kind of healing that wound of, like, you know, you can make mistakes and people aren't just gonna, like, that. It's not like you make one mistake and people are out, you know, or like they're gonna start hating you or they're gonna stop loving you as much or whatever. It's like, especially because the mistakes I'm talking about are like the dishes, or, like, you know, our room being a little dirty, or me not making the bed. It's like, it's not actual things that are, like, relationship deal breakers. It's like the smallest stuff, and I'm like, that's it, he's done. He hates me now. And so you've been such a stable and, like, reassuring person to me that it's like, it's healing that a lot for sure. And I know a lot of people listening can probably resonate with what I just said, and maybe can't even put it into those words, because it took me a long time to be able to realize, like, oh, that's why I'm literally anxious 24/7 in relationships. Even though they're like, I love you, we're fine. Like, I couldn't believe it. I was like,
trick yourself into thinking they're lying.
I have a lot of trust issues with people, for sure.
I think a lot of people do.
You've helped me a lot with that. Like, for sure.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things that surprised me and I was super grateful for is, you know, feeling like maybe even in society being vulnerable isn't a good move. It's not safe, to be emotionally vulnerable, especially as a man, because women's emotions are catered to literally anytime and every time at any point. And as a man, you do it once in the wrong way and you're done. I mean,
I'd say mainly crying.
That's a
like
huge
women
one.
aren't when women get angry, it's not taken as well, but like with
That's true.
with like crying and sadness and like softness in general, men are rejected for it a lot of the time.
Well, and vulnerability.
Yeah, just vulnerability, because
vulnerability is
absolutely
not disregarded in any means when it's done by a woman, but if you become vulnerable as a man, biologically, sociologically, personally, people, it's like, and with Victoria, I think you kind of would encourage me to be a little more vulnerable when we would be together, and I was hesitant and I didn't want to, and I kind of felt like I took a chance, and I was like, all right, I'm going to try this again. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be a little more vulnerable. We'll see what happens. And every time we just got closer together. And you've never like taken something that I said in a space of vulnerability and like use it against me. Or like, you've never thrown. Yeah, I mean, you've never thrown something back at me or been like, well, when you said this, or like, or like, you always do this. Remember that one time you couldn't handle it? Like, it's like you supported me, and I grew to feel very safe for being, like you said, like feeling like I was closed off before, and I was, but feeling like you've been able to help me open up to be more of who I am and a more fuller version of myself, to be vulnerable in the right times, and especially with you, and not to try and close up and, tough it out, which I, was doing for a long time. But, you've always taken that vulnerability and nurtured it instead of anything else. So I think that's one of our big things from my perspective.
Well, and I know for both of us, like, vulnerability doesn't come easy to me either. I think it's hard for us in different ways.
Yeah.
And so for when you would show vulnerability, I knew just from my personal self, but also just the experience of men, like how important it is for you to be able to do that. And from my own perspective, how difficult it is to do that and not feel terrible about it afterwards or even during. Not feeling like a burden, that kind of stuff, not feeling silly or whatever. Like I know how, like, basically, since I have so much shame around vulnerability, like I know how important it is to like reassure people and make them feel like this is fine, like this is good that you're letting this out, like whatever you need, I'm here. And I know it was tough for me to like cry in front of you for the first time and really actually be vulnerable. Like, I think we both struggled with that for sure. I think you more so with like actually showing it. I think I would show it and then like spiral and regret it afterwards.
Yeah.
I had a harder time suppressing. Like, it's really hard for me.
I can shove that shit way down there. That's not coming out.
Men are taught to do that in their little lockbox in their head and just way deep in there. But yeah, like it's really good to hear that. I'm really glad that, I mean, because you make me feel the same way. Like I like I feel like I'm even more emotional than I was, but in like I think in a much more productive way a lot of the time now. Like, I feel like I actually am communicating with you what's going on. Whereas before, like, I was so afraid to tell you why I was crying or, like, why I was upset. Like, because I was so scared of the rejection. Again, that, like, core rejection wound. And because every time I was scared to tell you something and then I'd tell you, you'd be like, yeah, that's fine. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I know for you, like, the first time you were really vulnerable and I didn't throw it back at you, you were like, oh wow,
Yeah.
You know, like, cool. That's not something that always has to happen. Like, my emotions aren't like, you know, like blackmail basically, you know,
Right.
for other people. And so, yeah, we both had difficulties with vulnerability just for, I think, like extremely different reasons, which is probably why we were able to help each other so much. Because it was like, even though we've talked about it a lot, how like our core wounds are so similar but just different enough that a lot of them, like, we don't get triggered in the process of helping each other a lot of the time.
Yeah,
because I feel like it's just different enough that we can relate and really understand, but it's not too similar where it like makes us uncomfortable to help each other.
Yeah.
Because I know that that's an issue for people. It's like if you have core wound issues that are really similar, you can just trigger each other. You know, it's really tough. And so, yeah, I think we just provide what the other one needs so effortlessly, which I think is so special. And I think that I feel like that's something that isn't talked about a lot, is like, is the person you're with almost like, is one of their skills providing you the needs that you need? That sounds dumb, but like, because not everyone can give the support that I need, and not everyone can give the support that you need. It just so happens that the way that you show support is exactly what I need, and the way I show support is exactly what you need a lot of the time. We've communicated and been like, here's how you can help me more, or like, here's what I actually need in this, or, you know, when you do this I feel a little like meh. But for the most part, it was just like, from the beginning, it was like, wow, we know what to do for each other. It was pretty magical. And I think that you can definitely find that. I think that you can also work on that with a partner that might not be able to, but it makes it a hell of a lot easier when they're already inclined. Like, when I'm really sad, I like when people joke around with me. I really like humor as like kind of like a coping thing and to make me feel better. And you like make fun of me when I'm sad, but and for some people that would like make them livid. I think if I made fun of you when you were really angry, I don't know if it would go so well.
You should do it. We'll find out.
I'm scared. I don't know. I don't want to hurt. Like, that's the thing, is like, I don't want to do something that might make it worse, but for me it makes it better. Like, I remember I was crying in the car, and I'm a really quiet crier. I like you know, like I'm a really quiet crier, and because I'm just that way, like I don't realize how dumb it sounds. And so we're just in the car on the way to my birthday dinner, and like I'm having an emotional, because I always cry on my birthday, and all of a sudden you in the driver's seat just start and again, for some people that would be like, they would kill you in that moment. They'd be like, you're making fun of me.
Well, okay, but to be fair, I was looking at you and you were not looking at me, and I was smiling, and you started looking at me when I was doing it, and I was smiling at you to see how you'd think, and I just knew that that you were gonna laugh. Like, I knew, I don't know why, but I just knew. I was like, oh, she's not gonna cry after this.
It made me feel a lot better. It was really, really funny. And yeah, like, so for me, that really, really helps me. And like a lot of like physical affection, you know, like lots of hugs and like just sitting with me and all of that. And then I know for you, I think we're still trying to figure it out more so, because again, you've suppressed so much over time, but
maybe.
But for the most part, I know that just kind of letting it happen and not getting worried that I did something, or like that you're mad at me when clearly it's something else going on, you know, giving you the space, but also kind of pushing you to talk about it a little bit, not in a bad way, just being like, talk to me, like, what's going on, what happened, like, I noticed you're off, like, are you tired, do you need food, like, you know, just kind of almost opening up the conversation, I think really helps for you. I mean, I guess you can speak more on that than I can.
Nope, not gonna talk about it.
No? Okay. All right. Fair enough. But yeah, I think all of that to say that, you know, not everyone's needs are the same, obviously, and not every person is able to meet those needs for you of what you need. Like, kind of like how I'm afraid to like joke with you when you're mad. There's plenty of people where if I was like, I didn't even tell you that like joking with me made me feel better. You just kind of like did it.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did you know that that's like what makes it better? You know?
Because we're in tune.
We're so into, we're stuck together.
Stuck together.
Yeah, we're, man, this whole podcast is just us like gushing about each other. Everyone's like, oh my God. No, hopefully it's cute, you know?
Well, you know, I think it's important to at least get it out there once, you know, and now people know. And so, you know, they're not going to have to ask, you know, there's a reference material for our story. It's out there. I think that's a really good summarization of it.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're still working together at the Denver Gym Show right now.
Yeah, that's the whole reason we got on this is how busy we've been with that.
And so we're going to be done soon, and it's going to slow down. We're going to go back to normal for a bit, but it gets really stressful, and it's a lot of work. And that's the other thing that's good about our relationship, too, is we work together first.
Yeah.
And I think there's kind of something cool about that because there's no, like, you can only put so much of a sheen up until you have to see somebody every day.
Yeah.
And then work together with them, coordinate with them.
Yes.
And we were just in the mode of, like, we know how to do stuff together and get it done. And I think that was, like, you know, it was a big part of how cool it was.
Yeah.
We learned how to work together and work with each other, and you know, it was just a great foundation, I think.
Yeah.
You know, because we respected the work that each other did, and you know, it was really great. And
yeah, we got to see kind of like a unfiltered, you know, version of each other. 'Cause you know, when you're at work and you're tired and stressed, it's like that's like a real part of you, you know, and like since we weren't romantically involved at all for months before, you know, I think sometimes when you meet someone and your main goal initially is like, I want to be romantically involved with this person, you can kind of put up that facade, maybe not even intentionally, but just like the best version of you. And I think that we kind of weren't doing that for a while, and so it sounds bad, but like we knew what we were getting into with each other, if that makes sense. Like we had already seen that, we had already argued with each other, we had already been really tired and stressed around each other, like, you know, all of that.
When we had worked the Denver Gem Show 2 years ago together, and it was stressful, and there was one moment too where you were like, well, you should stop doing this, and I was like, all right, you know, and we didn't get into it or whatever, but you know,
it gets tense.
We would respect each other, and we would respect each other's boundaries, and you know, just all the good stuff.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was really good, and I'm glad we had that experience. And I know not every couple is made to work together. Like every couple's different. Hi, Sage. You know, not every couple would work well together in that situation, but I think it really emphasized our teamwork. I think that's the main thing with us is like we are such a team. It feels like almost everything we do, we consider each other in it, which is so amazing. Like it's so great. I remember like in certain partnerships, they'd be like, and I'm going to go do this. And like, I want to be this. And I, me, which is fine. You know, everyone can be their own person, but it literally felt like their entire future, like they didn't mention me once.
Yeah.
And I was just like, you don't see me in your future. I'm temporary. At least that's what it felt like. 'Cause it was just never like, and we're going to go do this. And it feels like I love that you always are like, we can do this. We're going to go do this. Like, do you want to come with me? And even like, we're going to figure it out together. Or like, I can't wait until we do this. And it just like, it like is so, it's amazing. It's just, it's something didn't know that I needed as much as I did, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. To be included.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're an amazing team. If you ask me, that's what I think.
Oh, yeah.
And I think we do a great job on this podcast together. I love doing this podcast with you.
Yeah.
And I think this is a pretty good place to end this podcast.
Yeah, I definitely think that this was much needed. I think it's good that we talked about this so early on, like our relationship and everything. That we were not planning on talking about any of this.
We sat down here after we got all of our technology figured out. We got everything set up. We were ready. It's been like a long day and then a long time trying to figure this out. And we went over, we had lists we shared with each other. We were like, well, we could talk about this. We could talk about that. None of those got talked about. And so
we talked about crystals and then our relationship.
We didn't mean to talk about either of those things, but we did. So, yeah, I think it's good that people are going to know our story now. And, I'm excited to spend my life with you and hopefully have a really long run doing this podcast together.
I'm excited to spend my life with you too, baby. I'm sure you guys will over time learn that I'm a little sap. I'm such a sappy romantic.
I am at heart, just not as much as her.
No, you're. It's in there.
Oh yeah, it's in there.
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate you guys for listening.
Thank you guys so much. And
watching, whichever you're doing.
Yeah.
And if you want to give us any feedback, you can email us, stucktogetherpod@gmail.com.
Oh, yeah.
Go follow us on Instagram. We're on YouTube. We're on Spotify. I did just figure out the RSS feed for the podcast. So if you're watching on YouTube and you want to grab that and go put it into wherever you listen to podcasts, it should be in the description. And we're on Instagram, TikTok, the other stuff. We're going to be posting more and kicking it into high gear. And we really appreciate everybody who's out there.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. It's kind of crazy, just like the positive feedback we've gotten. And it's so nice. And it's felt so good. Like we just... all the feedback, but also just our feelings before we even started. We just felt so good about it. And just so excited to just like try this out and see how it goes. And so far it's been going great. And it does really feel like something we could do, which is super, super cool.
It's so fun.
But yeah, we really appreciate you guys watching and loving the gremlins. We've gotten a lot of positive feedback on the Grem Cam.
Yep.
But yeah, feel free to email us, DM us, anything like that. stucktogetherpod@gmail. You already said that, I think.
Yep, I said it, and
but,
all our handles for other social media is stucktogetherpod.
Yeah, but just literally any feedback. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a like. Follow us on Instagram. You know, all those things, all the things people say.
Yep.
If you want to, if you actually liked it, and if you do want to follow us, like we'd love it. But yeah, and I'm really glad we're doing this, and I love you.
I love you too, baby. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you guys so much. Bye.
Bye.